It's time to review Mutant Mudds from the Nintendo 3DS. Mutant Mudds is an eShop game developed by Renegade Kid of Dementia fame, and after 3 or so years of development was finally released in early 2012 to much critical acclaim, to the point where it's even been re-released on PC, iOS devices, and even the Wii U over the space of its first year. It's been about a year since its summer European release, so how about we check out Mutant Mudds to see what all the fuss is about. The story of Mutant Mudds is Earth is being invaded by Muddies, cute little creatures made from mud that look more at home in a Kirby game. The only way to stop the Muddies from conquering the world is to collect water sprites, magical crystals that have the ability to erase any kind of mud or dirt. So, playing as a young boy named Max equipped with nothing more than a jetpack and a water gun, it's up to you to traverse the many worlds to collect the water sprites and save Earth from the threat of the Muddies. Mutant Mudds is a retro-styled throwback to old 2D platformers from the NES era, even calling itself a 12-bit platformer, where the goal is to get the water sprite at the end of each level. You move left and right with the respective buttons on the D-pad, crouch by pressing down, you jump with the B and A buttons and can activate your jetpack for a short while by pressing B or A again in the air, and you shoot enemies by pressing either X or Y. The game's special gimmick is that there are special jump pads that can throw you back and forth across background layers in the style of Wario Land on Virtual Boy. In each level there is a single collectible to find: diamonds. There are 100 of these per level, and they need to be collected for two purposes. 1, to access the final levels of the game along with the water sprites, and 2, to obtain special power-ups such as a jetpack that can stay in the air longer and a water gun with a farther reach. Something to keep your eye on in each level are the secret VG lands, which can be found in special areas accessed only through the special power-ups. The VG lands serve as stylistic callbacks to other retro consoles such as the Game Boy's monochrome graphics, the IBM's quite trippy color palette, and even a bit of Virtual Boy all-red levels. In these you can collect more water sprites that add to your overall completion rate, though keep in mind that these are some of the toughest levels in the entire game. Speaking of difficulty, one of the game's two big problems is that there are some sections that are unbelievably challenging to a frustrating level. Let me make this clear that when you die, 99.9% of the time it's entirely your fault, not because the game's glitchy or it's unfairly cheap. But some of the later levels could be more accurately described as a test of your patience because they can be really frustrating. Due to the camera, you occasionally have to make a blind leap into something that may possibly kill you. Some of the enemies, especially the bomb-dropping Muddies, can be the cause of several deaths, and in the 3DS version, there's a 4-minute time limit, meaning you have to rush everything, and there aren't any mid-level checkpoints like in the iOS and Wii U ports, which makes already difficult levels all the more frustrating. The other big problem the game has is that it feels too short. Counting the VG levels and the extra levels included in an update a few months back, there are about 60 levels in the 3DS version, and it doesn't take too long to go through them all. It's odd, true, but it just feels like the game should have been even a small bit longer. It's definitely not helped by the fact that when you replay the levels after collecting the diamonds, they're still gone and there's nothing to do while traversing levels to make things a bit more satisfying. I'm aware that this is probably a little petty, but I felt it still needed to be said. Other than that, Mutant Mudds is a really good tribute to the old days of gaming and an utterly fantastic platformer in its own right. First off, the retro stylings of the game actually work really well and seem as if it could actually be a game made for the NES. The 12-bit graphics, while simple, are very well done with cartoony, nicely animated sprites composed against colorful, distinctive backgrounds, and the chiptune music is downright excellent, with really catchy and awesome tunes that, unlike several other games that use chiptune music, genuinely do sound like something from an NES soundboard. Another high point is the gameplay, which isn't really all that innovative, but is still amazingly good. It's very accessible for anyone to get into, but it's also challenging at the same time for anyone who wants to relive their childhood playing through games that weren't too easy without all the nonsense and bugs getting in the way. There aren't any kind of technical errors or glitches that would make games of this sort an absolute nightmare to play, and the level design, for the most part, is well designed and balanced quite well. Speaking of its challenge, when it's not making me tear my hair out in frustration, it's actually really satisfying to get through a level without dying, especially while getting all 100 diamonds in a single run. When I beat the last level in World 4, one of the hardest levels I've ever encountered in 2D platformers, with only a single heart left to spare, I felt I was on cloud 9. It was that gratifying. Mutant Mudds is an amazing game with really good retro graphics, excellent catchy chiptune music, very good gameplay, a tight balance between accessible and challenging, and being really satisfying and fun to play. However, it's let down by some frustrating moments and a lingering feeling that it could have been longer. If you're into 2D platformers, old NES games, or both, I highly advise you buy Mutant Mudds, particularly the Wii U port, which includes extra levels, mid-level checkpoints as an option, and no time limits. Mutant Mudds gets a rating of bloody brilliant, an amazing game with only a few problems holding it back. I'm Father Duke 9000, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Until we meet again, have a great day, y'all!